Yes, ma'am. Let us start.
Okay, sir. Good morning, one and all present here. I, Ms. Rashmi Kale, Assistant Professor from Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology, welcomes you all on this auspicious occasion of Shiv Swaraj Din. ज्या दिवसाची तमाम शिवभक्ती पाहत होते वाट, त्या शिवराजाच्या अभिषेक सोहळ्याची झाली पहाट. रायगडावर आली शिवभक्तीच्या भगव्याची लाट. डोळे दिपतील शिवभक्त्यांचे आपल्या राजाचा पाहून थाट. शिवराज्य अभिषेक सोहळ्याच्या हार्दिक शुभेच्छा. As June 6, which is still celebrated in the state of Maharashtra as Shiv Rajya Abhishek Din, will now be celebrated as Shiv Swaraj Din. An Indian warrior, king, and a member of Bhosle Maratha clan, Shivaji, was formally crowned on this day as the Chhatrapati Shivaji of his realm at Raigad in 1674. On this 343rd anniversary of his coronation, here is a look at his life and legacy. At the age of 12, Shivaji was taken to Bangalore, where he, along with his elder brother Sambhaji and his half brother Ikoji, received further formal training. Shivaji carved out an enclave from the declining Adil Shahi Sultanate of Bijapur that formed the genesis of the Maratha Empire. Shivaji established a competent and progressive civil rule with the help of a disciplined military and well structured administrative organization. He innovated military tactics, pioneering non conventional methods which leveraged strategic factors like geography, speed, and surprise, and focused pinpoint attack to defeat his larger and more powerful enemies. He revived ancient Hindu political traditions and court conventions and promoted the usage of Marathi and Sanskrit rather than Persian in court and administration. Shivaji was crowned with King of Maratha Swaraj in a lavish ceremony on 6th June 1674 at Raigad Fort. Gaga Bhatt officiated holding a gold vessel filled with the seven sacred waters of the rivers Yamuna, Indus, Gange, Godavari, Narmada, Krishna, and Kaveri over Shivaji's head and chanted the Vedic coronation mantras. Nearly 50,000 people gathered at Raigad for the ceremony. Shivaji was entitled Shakakarta, founder of an era, and Chhatrapati, paramount sovereign. The brave warrior died in 1680 but is still known for his courage and intelligence. Shivaji will always be known as a source of inspiration and pride for generation for his correct and military acumen. On this occasion, I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Khangai, Associate Professor, Postgraduate Teaching Department of History, Rashtrasant Tukdoji Maharaj, Nagpur University, Nagpur. And also, I would like to welcome to our Honorable Principal, Dr. K.T. Thomas, and all the faculties and my students. Now, I will introduce our guest speaker. He did MA in History. He is PhD. He did Diploma in Mechanical Engineering. He has qualified UGC NET. He has achieved an online certificate course on Mahabharata and Ramayana from Oxford Centre for Hindu Studies, Oxford University, UK. He has also achieved an online certificate course on Hinduism through its scriptures from Howard University, USA. He is having total 12 years of experience in which he gave 5 years at Ambedkar College at Tripura and 7 years at Postgraduate Teaching Department of History, RTMNU, Nagpur. He has rated among top 1% scholar across the globe on academia education. He was divisional board topper in class 12th in 1993. He was a second topper in university in MA in 2002. He was selected for postdoctoral fellowship of Indian Council of Historical Research in 2012. He is having total number of publications 70. He served in the Indian Air Force for 15 years and awarded Operation Vijay Medal for participation in Kargil action in 1999. And the list is so long. So, due to the constraint of the time, I'll stop over here and I would like to hand over to Dr. Ravi Khangai, sir. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Rashmi Madam, for such a generous introduction. I hope I am audible and visible to all of you. Rashmi
Yes,
Madam?
sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Just one correction. I'm assistant professor. I'm not associate professor. Now, respected principal, Dr. K.T. Thomas, sir, principal of SFS College, organizers of this program, faculty members, students, other scholars joining from the different part of the country. At the outset, I must thank organizer for inviting me. And though it's not my area of expertise, but I will try to do my best. He says that history is an unending dialogue between past and present. We take the episodes and characters from the past and we try to reconstruct them, which generally dependent on our own conditioning, our own social construct. And that is how Chhatrapati Shivaji has been interpreted and reinterpreted time and again by the people. In today's lecture, I will be generally focusing on how his legacy, how his character that is generally portrayed in the historical text is relevant today. Chhatrapati Shivaji definitely he fought in the medieval period, and now nobody will expect us that like Chhatrapati Shivaji we should also take a sword and go on fighting the war. That will be quite an misinterpretation of history. It will be irrelevant in today's context. But nevertheless, what we can learn from his character is his courage, his patience, his eye for detail, and those qualities are eternally relevant. Rajwadi says that history is having two dimensions. There is a dimension of history which is having eternal relevance. Always we find that those things are relevant, and there are certain dimension of history which changes with the time. Like we won't be expected to pick up a sword and go and fighting. We will be put in the jail. But the kind of courage and tenacity and the concern for the downtrodden that Chhatrapati Shivaji's that was visible in Chhatrapati Shivaji's administration, that is very relevant, very important for the leaders of today. Now, please allow me to share my PPT.
Participants are requested to please turn off their mic.
Is it visible, ma'am, sir? My PPTs?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine. We will go ahead now. And I'll begin with the quotation. The war cannot be won by the genius and resources alone. It needs a well-calculated plan, a rigorous practice, and proper implementation. And this is what we have seen in the character of Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji, and that is these kind of qualities are required everywhere. We always encounter a lot of challenges in our life, in our personal life, in our professional life as well. And Arnold Toynbee, in his epoch-making book, Study of History, says that the progress and the survival of the civilization generally dependent on the challenges and the response. Challenges comes in life, and survival of that civilization and the growth of that civilization generally dependent on the response that is given by the people to that challenges. And in Chhatrapati Shivaji's character and his response to the challenges, his response to the situation, as well as the response of the general follower of Chhatrapati Shivaji, that is Marathas, had been phenomenal. It is an exceptional example in the Indian history that Chhatrapati Shivaji could build his kingdom in the teeth of opposition from all sides. Mughal, they were at the zenith of his power when Chhatrapati Shivaji challenged their might. And well, so in the context of today, or in the eternal context, what are the kind of leadership lessons that we can learn from Chhatrapati Shivaji's behavior that I will be analyzing first, and then one more issue that I want to address it later on. That is, was Chhatrapati Shivaji a secular person? Secularism is much in the fashion nowadays. Was he really secular, or we are trying to impose the present day concern on the past? That also I will be elaborating later on if I get time for that. Well, the very important leadership lesson that we can learn from Chhatrapati Shivaji's character is his personal courage. You, a leader, should have the quality to lead from the front, and that personal courage is visible in the different episodes in his life. I will not be elaborating on the episodes because that is generally known to the people. So take the example of Afzal Khan's episode. Afzal Khan was known to be the person of very deceptive character. He was known to be very strong, but Chhatrapati Shivaji took the personal challenge of meeting him in personal, and we know the history. That was a very important major challenge that is faced by his newly growing, newly established small kingdom. Another example is that is attack on Shaista Khan. Just imagine the courage of a person. He goes in the middle of the enemy's camp, surrounded by thousands of soldiers, and he takes only a few handful of soldiers and attacks Shaista Khan in his bedchamber. At the same time, next episode, that is Escape from Agra. There are only 2-3 episodes I will be analyzing. Escape from Agra. Removed far away from his own kingdom of Maharashtra, removed far away from his own people, having only very few people with him, and he is put in the prison by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, who was also known to be a very ambitious and equally cunning person, who had no scruples in killing his own brother for the empire. So that kind of person, he caught Chhatrapati Shivaji. Shivaji was not Chhatrapati that time, of course. He caught Shivaji and put him in the prison. Probably the person, any person would have lost courage. But it is in the stressful situation that your strength of character comes out. And that is where he not only showed an exemplary courage, but he showed how very thoroughly he can plan and execute the operation. And in contrast, Chhatrapati Shivaji was the founder of Maratha kingdom, and the last Peshwa, that is the leader of the Maratha Confederation, was Bajirao II. And if we need to just draw the contrast between these two personalities, Chhatrapati Shivaji's exceptional bravery, exceptional capacity, exceptional personal courage to take the risk has built his kingdom. And if you study the history of Bajirao II, that is the last phase of Maratha kingdom, we always find that Bajirao is always running away from the battlefield. Even before the loss is decided during the Anglo-Maratha wars, he runs away from the battlefield even before the decision is made on the battlefront. If he runs away, obviously his follower will lose the courage, and it is that stressful situation which tests your character, and we find that in all the stressful situations, Chhatrapati Shivaji comes out very shiningly, and that is one of the important lessons that we need to learn. If the road is smooth, anybody can drive. But if you are a good driver, you should be able to drive in the difficult road. So it is the difficulty and challenges in the life that really test our character. Apart from that personal courage, it is not thoughtless courage that you just go and meet the enemy, or you kill the enemy, or you die in the process. It was not that kind of thoughtless courage. But Chhatrapati Shivaji, he had an eye for details. He planned everything very thoroughly. Take all these 3 episodes. I am reflecting once again. Episodes of Afzal Khan. Now, before he took on the Afzal Khan in the personal meeting, he had the detailed information of his army, and he stationed his army in the forest, planning that next day, when I kill Afzal Khan, there will be a cannon fire from the fort, and after listening to that cannon fire, you will attack the enemy from the different direction. His army was stationed in the forest on the previous day night itself. So that kind of thorough planning had won him the day. And in contrast, Afzal Khan was very overconfident that he can just bring Shivaji, and his army was relaxing. Take the case of Shaista Khan. He knew very thoroughly through his network of his spies that what is the time of the changing of the guard, and it is at the time of the changing of the guard that the security situation can be percolated. Security situation can be, you can enter, because you there is a possibility of fooling the people. You will dress up like their own Mughal people, and you can enter in their camp. Where Shaista Khan is sleeping, that was also known to him. So he had a thorough planning. Agra episodes. When he escaped from Agra, he had already planned everything very thoroughly. We don't know that episode. I am not going to elaborate on it, how he started sending sweets to the people and finally he escaped from the basket. But then apart from that, where the horses will be stationed, where are the Maratha families in Mathura, where he can keep his son very safely, and later on his son can be brought back to Maharashtra so that he can escape from being discovered. That kind of thorough planning he has done. While his expedition to south after 1674, here also he planned everything thoroughly, which are the weak area. Adil Shah is not paying attention to his territory in the South India. So those areas can be attacked and conquered. Next thing, in Ajnapatra, that is the this is the text Ajnapatra, which is written by Ramchandra Panta Amatya, the person who served under Shivaji, and this gives you us a lot of idea about the policies of Chhatrapati Shivaji. And in this text, in one of the instructions that is given by Chhatrapati Shivaji to his naval commander, how thorough and how he had an eye for detail. He writes, of course, the text is written after that, but it is a reflection on Chhatrapati Shivaji's policy. Chhatrapati Shivaji writes to his naval commander that ensure that when you are sleeping in the camp, you are putting off the lamp. Because if the lamp is not put off, it is quite possible that a mouse may carry away the burning wick, and if the mouse carries away that burning wick to the store, it is quite possible that the store may be burned and our soldiers will not get food and our animals will not get fodder. So that kind of detailed instruction he used to give it to his commander, so that there should not be this kind of accident and sabotage. In his expedition to south, he not only got thorough information, but he also carried with him his clerks and administrator, because he understood that it is conquering of the territory is important. But then apart from that, giving a good administration immediately to the population is also equally important. And having an eye for detail is one of the important quality that is required for the management, that is required for the leadership. Next important thing is that he had concern for the downtrodden. He used to call his kingdom as Swarajya, and Swarajya is your own kingdom. And he tried his best that his Rayat, that is population, should feel that it is their own kingdom. We are present day, our world is under too much under the influence of the materialism, capitalism, and this capitalist greed, it strips us of the human concern. There is a lot of emphasis on how you can produce the maximum product and how you can sell it in the market without any concern to the morality, without any concern to the human feeling. And that is the reason there is a lot of exploitation we find in all the institutions almost, because somewhere that human concern and genuine concern for the human feeling is being lost. But we find that Chhatrapati Shivaji's administration is tempered with the human concern. His management was influenced by the welfare, concern of the welfare of the downtrodden. And in the same text in Ajnapatra, in one of the instruction that he gives to his naval commander is that you should not harbor, you should not anchor your ships in the same harbor every year, because if you are anchoring your ships in the same harbor, the soldiers will start giving trouble to the civilian population. Next instruction he gives that whatever the wood that is required for the soldier, maybe for cooking the food or maybe for any other purpose, it should be purchased from the people after giving them due compensation, and no trees should be cut. He writes that these trees are planted and taken care and nurtured by the population, nurtured by the farmer like their own children. So if you cut the tree, that will hurt their feeling, and if the rayat, that is common population, is trouble, there will be no kingdom. So here again, his minute detail, observation of minute detail is not only about his expedition and the war. There is a minute detail instruction given about taking into consideration the welfare of the common people. Well, Arnold Toynbee again, he says that it is challenges and response that I have already referred to, that it is how you respond to the challenges decides whether the civilization will grow and survive. Another very important thing that he writes is that a civilization survives if there are moral values which are relevant. Now, in Chhatrapati Shivaji's character, we find that there is a personification of the moral values given to us by the Indian dharmic traditions. Indian dharmic tradition teaches us that everybody, irrespective of their belief, should be respected. And we find that is personified in Chhatrapati Shivaji's character, and it is written by a Mughal historian named Kafi Khan. Kafi Khan at different places, he definitely, criticizes Chhatrapati Shivaji because he himself was Mughal. But the same Kafi Khan, he writes that Chhatrapati Shivaji has given instruction to his soldiers that no enemy's woman is to be molested, should not be troubled. A Quran is to be respected, and it is believed, it is recorded that if the Quran fell in the hands of Chhatrapati, he used to give it respectfully to his Muslim soldiers. And we find that same kind of legacy is being reflected in the behavior of the Marathas in general. There had been an exception, we find notorious character everywhere. But nevertheless, the legacy of the past, the kind of heroes that we worship and the kind of heroes that we respect, it influences our character definitely. And one of the important values that Chhatrapati Shivaji's character reflects is that being liberal to the other religion, as well as his respect for women. And we find that same thing is reflected nearly about 70-80 years after his death. Chimaji Appa, the brother of Bajirao Peshwa first, he attacks Basin, and that fort of Vasai was a very strong fort constructed by Portuguese, and he defeats Portuguese after a long drawn war. There is a long drawn war. There was a death of large number of Marathas, but when Portuguese governor of that place, Portuguese commander of that place, when he surrenders, Chimaji Appa ensures that no woman of Portuguese side, no woman is troubled, and he took adequate precaution that those people are able to stay comfortably for a few days till the time they can recover from the war fatigue and go with their belonging. So from where this kind of behavior came, this kind of behavior comes from the legacy. Somewhere it is ingrained in our mind that it is quite disrespectful to treat the women of enemy as a war trophy, as it is being done mostly in the medieval period. Not only in the medieval period, we find that kind of violation of women's honor during the First and Second World War as well. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a very beautiful verse which says that Yad yad acharati sreshta tat tat evottaro jana se yat pramanam kurte lokas tat anuvartate. What does that mean is that whatever the elder, whatever our leader does, that is being generally followed by the people, and whatever the examples they set, that is generally followed. So the examples that is set by the people like Chhatrapati Shivaji and people like Chimaji Appa, it influences the character of the people, and that is what shapes our attitude, the way we treat other people. Apart from his personal courage, apart from his eye for detail, he was a visionary. He knew that, as you know, during his lifetime itself, Bijapur kingdom has become quite weak, and he knew that in future the major contest that is going to be, that is between the Marathas and the Mughals, they were at the zenith of their power, had a very extensive empire under Aurangzeb, and in order to save his kingdom, in order to be prepared for this eventuality, he launches an expedition to south, and he conquers the fort of Zinzi, that is near Chennai.
लाइटर कहाँ है शकील?
Well, that is near
मेरा
Chennai.
लाइटर क्या हो गया?
Well,
Halim sir, please turn off your mic.
Well, okay, thank you. So there is a fort of Jinji near Chennai, and he conquers that fort. And it is later on, after the death of Shivaji, that was when Rajaram becomes king, that is in 1689, that fort become a very important place where Rajaram takes shelter and protects himself as well as protect the Maratha kingdom. And it is not that just you have Chhatrapati Shivaji had a kingdom in Maharashtra, and at a faraway place there is a fort. There is a chain of fort that leads to that fort from Maharashtra to Jinji. There is a chain of fort where Rajaram could take shelter and finally go to the safer place of Jinji. So he had that vision, what is going to happen in future, and he was prepared for that eventuality. So preparing for the eventuality is also one of the important quality of leader that is required. And in case of Afzal Khan's episode, where I forgot to tell you that he was very confident, very well prepared that he will probably come out successfully from that meeting. But at the same time, he had his plan B ready, and it is written in the Burkar that before going to meet Afzal Khan, he have his meeting with his with his courtier, with his council, and he tells them that in case something happens to me, that is in case if I die in the meeting, you install Shambhuraje, my son, as the king, and you carry out you with the administration with the help of Jizabai. So that kind of vision he had, that I should be prepared even if I am not there, my kingdom should not suffer. That kind of vision he did have. He was a practical statesman. When Jai Singh was sent against him in 1664 with a huge army, the war was fought. But then Chhatrapati Shivaji understood that he is not a match for Jai Singh. His kingdom is small. He have a very, in comparison, he have a very small number of soldiers. So he compromised with Jai Singh and save his kingdom so that he can retaliate and regain his kingdom at the right time. He doesn't rush to the war to be annihilated and to perish, but he fights the war when when there is a chances of success. So that there is a Chinese book, very famous book, Art of War, where the writer says that if you can win the war without fighting, that is the best thing. And you should go to the war when you are sure of your success. And we find that practical sagacity, the practical statesmanship in the decision and the behavior of Chhatrapati Shivaji. Next important thing is that he did not blame the situation that I did not have a very fertile tract in Western Maharashtra where he started his kingdom is definitely not a very fertile tract in comparison to the Northern India of Ganga Yamuna Doab. But he effectively used that infertile mountainous terrain to develop his guerrilla tactics very effectively, and with that guerrilla tactics, the Marathas could save their kingdom and fight against the mighty Mughal emperor for 25 years. He did not had a very self-destructive sense of chivalry. There is a heroism, and that is being, utilized. You go to the war, either you kill your enemy or you get killed. Definitely, that is one of the heroism. But that kind of heroism can be self-destructive. If you know that you are not going to win, there is no harm in withdrawing and then striking back again when you are your position is secure, when you know that you are going to win the war. So he developed that kind of tactics, and we generally find that it is by using that kind of tactics, the Marathas, they could later on extend their empire in all direction. The Marathas, they were known for their guerrilla tactics as well as their swift movement, which had nullified the artillery. The artillery of Mughal was better than the Marathas, but it is because of this guerrilla tactics developed by Shivaji and then later on carried forward by later on Marathas like Mallara Holkar and Bajirao Peshwa that made the Maratha kingdom into the empire. Well, he was, as I already referred to, that he was not only the conqueror, but he understood the importance of giving good civil administration. Yes, and he has written a very good book on the administrative system of the Marathas. And here he writes that the Maratha characters were generally looked down upon the running of the administration. They thought it is quite heroic to fight the war, kill the enemy, conquer the territory. But Chhatrapati Shivaji understood that as conquering territory is important, running of the administration is also equally important. And S.N. Sen in his book mentioned that Chhatrapati Shivaji has to convince to his officer. His officers were not willing to take the administrative work. They requested Chhatrapati Shivaji that you really was from this administrative work. Let me go on expedition and fight the war. That is what I like most. And Chhatrapati Shivaji has to convince to his efficient officers that this work of running the administration is also equally important. At the same time, he understood the difficulties of putting in the place the proper administrative structure. And one of the important challenge was the hereditary watandar. The watandar, the hereditary zamindar, they had their traditional fief which they were not willing to leave it all together, and they exploited the peasantry. They were traditional tax collector as well. They collected lot of tax, deposited certain thing with the central authority, and they enriched themselves and later on challenged the central authority. Chhatrapati Shivaji, maybe probably ahead of his time, understood this problem, and he appointed the tax collector by paying them regular salary. To whatever extent he can reduce the watan, he has tried to do that. Of course, he could not do it completely. You have to adjust with the time and circumstances. But it was his policy, as it is written in the Ajna Patre, that he generally avoided giving any watan to anybody, and he tried to curtail the power of the watandar. If the watandar is absorbed in the service of Chhatrapati Shivaji, generally he is posted far away from his watan. If he is posted on the fort, that fort will be away from his watan, so that he cannot indulge into conspiracy. Unfortunately, this Chhatrapati Shivaji's policy was done away later on by the Marathas from the period of Rajaram. Situation was such, as Aurangzeb was giving watan to Marathas to attract them, Rajaram started giving them watan to attract the Marathas who were in the service of the Mughal, and the same thing continued. Later on, though, the Peshwas became supreme and there was no threat of Mughal as such, but the Peshwa did not try to correct this system which Chhatrapati Shivaji has done. And we find this very glaring contrast that Chhatrapati Shivaji's commander were not given watan, but they were given the salary. And neither there was a tradition of having a hereditary office. And that is the reason Chhatrapati Shivaji's commander like Netaji Palkar and Tanaji Malsare, they could not amass the huge wealth. But during Peshwa's period, we find that Peshwa's commander like Sindes and Holkar, they amassed the huge wealth, and they started in course of time ruling like an independent ruler without any giving consideration to the central authority. So in Chhatrapati Shivaji's time itself, we find that there were 4 commander-in-chief, including Prataprao Gujar and Hambirao Mohite. But in Peshwa's time, the offices became hereditary. We find that when Dabhade becomes Senapati, and when he dies, his son becomes Senapati, and Peshwa's house also became hereditary. Well, at the same time, a leader has to make effective use of the practical situation. The caste system is one of the important drawbacks of the Hindu society, no doubt about it. But Chhatrapati Shivaji has tried to make a best use of that for the administration, and it is written that on the fort, he used to keep 3 important officers belonging to different castes. Like Havaldar used to be generally Maratha, Karkhanis, who was supposed to look after the store, used to be from Prabhu caste, and Sabnis, who used to take responsible for the maintaining of the account, was Brahmin. So these people from the 3 different castes, it prevented from the having a conspiracy of coming together, as because of the caste jealousy, these people kept watch over each other and immediately reported to Shivaji in case somebody is betraying the Maratha kingdom. Well, now I am going to address this next question. I think I still have some 4 or 5 minutes. What Chhatrapati Shivaji a secular person? Now this word secular is subjected to different interpretation, and one of the interpretation is that you are a not religious person, you do away with religion and then you become secular, and that is one of the interpretation. And one public life, your religion does not influence your public decisions. But what Chhatrapati a secular Chhatrapati, the people belonging to other religion, no doubt, intention to rightfully protect his religion and his tradition. And Before the rise of Chhatrapati Shivaji, the Marathi sant like Ramdasa and Eknatha, they prepared a background where people should unite to protect the religion. The changes in the religion can come, but if somebody is deliberately trying to destroy your religion, destroy your place of worship, and forcibly trying to convert you, there was a reaction among the sons. And Ramdasa, in his one of long poem Anandavan Bhuvana, Ramdasa is, by and large, many people believe that he was one of the source of inspiration of Chhatrapati Shivaji. Of course, it is contested. In Anandavan Bhuvana, Ramdasa writes that, he dreams that Aurangzeb, the orthodox and intolerant ruler, has died, and now there is atmosphere is open for the practicing of the Indian religious tradition. And Chhatrapati Shivaji also used to call his Rajya as Sri Rajya, that is kingdom of the god. So his secularism was of different type. He respected Muslims, but at the same time he had an intention to rightfully protect his religious tradition. And we find that his policy is later on influencing the policies of the later Marathas, like Peshwa. Peshwa, when they became supreme power, they always tried to liberate the Hindu pilgrimage center like Gaya and Prayag and Mathura, so that they can be well looked after by them. If you are just blindly proclaiming that Chhatrapati Shivaji was secular, it is like, imposing the present day concern on the past. That is what we do many of the time, which is generally one of the fault in the interpretation of history. The history is to be studied in the context of the mentalities of that time. That is what the postmodernism teaches us. Well, now, in spite of all these good things that I told about Chhatrapati Shivaji, he could not completely rise above his time, and which is not possible. Human personality is a mixture of two things, that is the individual talent, how the individual thinks, as well as the social determinism, social construct. You cannot just completely rise above the social influence, and that is the reason we find that his behavior is also often influenced by superstitious. Like he went for first coronation was in 1674, done by Gaga Bhatt, but Nishchal Puri, the tantric, he said that there had been certain problem in that coronation, and under the influence of Nishchal Puri, he goes for the second coronation. Technically, also the society, the contemporary society of Maharashtra and India in general, was technically quite backward, and that is the reason Chhatrapati Shivaji could not rise up with his time. He could not start manufacturing cannons, or even when he tried to construct Sundurdurg, he has to take help of the Portuguese expert, the fort that was constructed in the ocean. So, lastly, I will just sum up. I think I am just right in the time. He was definitely an exceptional leader. He built his kingdom in the teeth of his opposition. So the lesson that you can draw is that we should not lose courage even though the situation is quite adverse. He did had a concern for the downtrodden. That is a very important quality that is required everywhere at management, at leadership. He was a practical statesman and did not live in the dreamy world. He was quite liberal in his religious view, and Ramdasa, who inspired him, believed to be inspired him, also writes in one of the texts that when you construct the fort, there should be a place for a mosque as well. And he made best use of the situation, like very effective use of the mountainous terrain for developing these guerrilla tactics, and very effective use of the caste conflict to have the effective administration over the fort. So here I am ending my presentation. Thank you so much for patience listening, and thank you so much for inviting me. Ma'am, now it is over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really indeed deep inside the life history of Dr. Shivaji Maharaj. So I am here to give proposed formal vote of thanks. It gives me immense pleasure to thank today's guest speaker, Dr. Ravi Khangai, who is assistant professor in RTM Nagpur University, for accepting our invitation in such a short notice. That is the greatness of his personality. Yesterday only we called him and he accepted our invitation, and with such a short notice he could give such elaborate history, life, and structure, deep inside the life of Shivaji Maharaj. Very great, sir. Thank you very much. He gave a deep insight of the importance of Shivaji Rajyabhishek, or complete life history in today's context, how it is to be understood in today's context. That was great. His words will definitely encourage the students in general particular and all the audience in general to study he gave the glimpses of life, but now we are encouraged to study life in detail, and we can how it can we can try to implement it in today's context and improve. Students will try to improve their personality in this direction, how the what were the qualities of Shivaji and how to be successful. So for example, how he could do the detailed planning to be, and he was considerate for all the different moral values and making best uses of resources that were available to him, and he could make such a great life. And with this, if students try to implement this, inculcate them in this their life, they will really be the pillars for modern India, which we want to become a Vishwa Guru in next few years. So all these properties or all these character properties of Shivaji can help in that context. Thank you very much, sir, for your great picture that you have given in front of us. I also thank our principal, Dr. K.T. Thomas, sir, for continuous guidance for arranging such programs. I take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues, especially Dr. Sarve and Dr. Purvi Madam, for organizing this event successfully. Purvi Madam really arranged. She was great help for us. I also thank computer department for giving us technical support to carry out this program smoothly. This program would not have been successful without you students. I also thank all my colleagues for attending this program and making this program a great success. I thank all the other participants who are attending this program. A big thank you for all. So very great, no, sir. Sir, it was indeed very good lecture I have attended. Thank you very much, sir. Again, a big thank you to all of you. Lastly, I request all the participants to fill the feedback form at the end. That will be given in the link, and please fill the feedback form so that we can improve the program for the programs. Thank you very much, sir. It was really great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Over to you, sir. Service.
It was a nice talk, sir. It was a really indeed a good talk. So on behalf of SFS College, once again I thank you. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So we end the program now. Thank you all.
Thanks.